What if the version of you that feels the most free, the most radiant, the most magnetic, is the version you abandoned long ago? Stay close now, because in the next minutes, we are not just talking about femininity, confidence, or healing. We are going back to the very place where your sense of worth was either nurtured or denied, to the girl you once were, to the smile you stopped showing, and to the hidden truth that Jung tried to tell us. Your feminine self-confidence does not begin in the mirror. It begins in the memory of a little girl who once believed she was enough, before the world taught her to hide. And when she smiles again, everything changes. Let's begin. There is a quiet moment in almost every woman's life when she looks at herself and realizes she doesn't recognize the girl she used to be. Her eyes have the same color, her voice carries the same tone, but something inside has shifted, not with age, not with time, but with the accumulation of small denials. The way she said yes when she wanted to say no, the way she smiled to keep the peace, the way she forgot how it felt to be chosen without effort. CARL Jung taught us that the psyche is layered. At the deepest level lies the child archetype, not childishness, but the inner essence of curiosity, openness, and trust. This child once lived freely in you. She laughed too loudly. She danced without rhythm. She dreamed without limits. And somewhere along the way, she was asked to be smaller, quieter, more agreeable. Feminine self-confidence is not a performance. It's not about appearing strong. It's about remembering what it feels like to be whole, to live without apologizing for your light, to speak with the voice of someone who knows she is already enough. And that remembering begins when the inner child is heard again. Jung believed that healing happens through integration. The parts of us we exile eventually begin to scream, not always in words, but in symptoms, anxiety, insecurity, disconnection. So if you find yourself struggling to feel worthy, it may not be because something is wrong with you. It may be because the girl inside you was silenced before she ever had a chance to speak. Go back to her, not just with memory, but with compassion. Ask her what she needed when no one noticed her pain. Ask her what made her feel most alive. You may be surprised at what she says, because inside her answers lies the blueprint of your confidence, not the kind that seeks validation, but the kind that rises quietly from truth. The feminine is not passive, it is receptive, and in that receptivity lies immense power. But when you were taught to abandon yourself to be loved, that receptivity turned into saturation. You stopped listening to your intuition. You stopped trusting your feelings. You looked outside for answers that only existed within. When the inner child smiles again, she does so not because life has become easy, but because you have finally come home to her. You have chosen to listen, to protect, to believe, and in doing so, you awaken a self-confidence that no external voice can grant or take away. Look at the moments in your life when you felt most magnetic, not in appearance, but in essence. Chances are, there were moments when you were fully present, when you weren't performing, when your joy wasn't calculated, when your words flowed from a place of inner safety. That was her. That was the inner girl peeking through, reminding you of who you are. Confidence built on achievement will always feel fragile, because it depends on doing. But confidence born from the inner child depends only on being true, being kind, being present. And this kind of confidence is rare because it is not taught, it is remembered. This remembrance begins with softness, not weakness, but the courage to let go of armor, the boldness to feel again, the strength to trust your own rhythm in a world that demands conformity. Feminine self-confidence is not loud, it is not dominant. It is the quiet power of a woman who has made peace with the girl she once was. Jung wrote that the greatest burden a child can carry is the unlived life of the parent. For many women, that burden shows up as shame. The shame of not being enough, the shame of wanting more, the shame of being too much. But that shame was never yours. It was inherited, absorbed, mistaken for truth, and healing begins when you return it. You return it not with resentment, but with clarity. You say, "This is not mine to carry." You say, "I choose something different now." And that choice, spoken from the depths of your inner truth, is the beginning of sovereignty. You become the woman who no longer asks for permission to exist fully in the mirror. She still sees the adult, but in her eyes, there's a new glimmer. A softness that comes from self-acceptance, a fierceness that comes from remembering. She is not looking to be chosen, she is choosing herself. And that changes everything. This is not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about waking up every day and saying, I will no longer abandon myself to be accepted. I will no longer shrink to fit into someone else's idea of who I should be. I will meet the girl inside me with love, and I will walk with her. When your inner child smiles, the world feels less heavy, not because it changes, but because you do. You begin to see beauty again in the small things. You laugh more easily, you speak more freely, and in doing so, you become magnetic, not because you tried, but because you aligned. Alignment is the secret, and that alignment begins when you honor your own pace, your own voice, your own needs. Jung would remind you that the path to wholeness is not about becoming someone new. It is about reclaiming what was lost, and the first step is listening. So listen to the memories, to the longings, to the parts of you that were once dismissed. They carry messages. They carry your medicine. They carry the version of you that is already enough. Let her smile again. Let her lead. Let her be seen. Before we continue, just a quick note. If you feel drawn to Carl Jung's teachings and want to understand your inner self more deeply, explore the Jung method. It's a practical tool to uncover what holds you back. The link is in the first comment. Now, let's go deeper. Most women don't realize when their inner child went silent. It doesn't happen in one day. It begins in small, unnoticed moments. A teacher brushing off your curiosity. A parent not seeing your excitement. A friend mocking the way you laughed. These moments may seem insignificant, but they plant quiet doubts. And those doubts become roots that spread through your adult identity. You begin to hide your brilliance. You hesitate to speak up. You second-guess your instincts. And when you finally feel the discomfort of not being seen or heard, you think, it's about the present. But it's not. It's about the child who didn't get a chance to feel safe being exactly who she was. Jung believed that our inner conflicts stem from the parts of ourselves we repress. The inner child is often the first to be buried, not because she was wrong, but because she was vulnerable. And in a world that rewards performance over presence, vulnerability is seen as weakness. So you learned to toughen up, to be polite, to be nice, to survive. But surviving isn't living. And the woman who is done with merely surviving will eventually return to where she left herself behind. That's what healing really is. A return, a homecoming. You don't have to dig through every memory. You just need to start listening again. To the way your heart races when you're about to express a truth. To the tightness in your chest when someone interrupts you. To the tears that come from nowhere. These are all messages. Echoes of the child inside asking, can I be safe now? Can I be heard now? Can I be me? Your power begins when you say yes. There is a peace that comes when you stop trying to fix yourself and start trying to understand yourself. Real confidence is built not through pretending, but through allowing. Allowing your feelings, allowing your softness, allowing your imperfections to be part of your strength. When you stop apologizing for your presence, for your desires, for your boundaries, you become magnetic, not because you're louder, but because you're clearer. You're no longer bending to be liked. You're standing in who you are. A woman connected to her inner child glows differently. She moves with grace, not because she was taught to, but because she returned to her natural rhythm. The way she once danced without thinking, spoke without filtering, dreamed without fear. That rhythm was never lost, just buried. And once she finds it again, everything shifts. She no longer chases attention. She no longer fears rejection. She no longer seeks validation from those who can't meet her depth, because she sees herself now. And that sight, that clarity, makes her unforgettable. You don't need to become anything more. You only need to reconnect with the girl who once believed she was enough, with the voice that still whispers beneath your doubt, with the light that flickers when you dare to show up fully. Some days you'll feel radiant, other days you'll feel like hiding. Both are okay. Confidence isn't about always shining, it's about always returning. Returning to self, returning to truth, returning to softness. Even when the world feels hard, the world told you that being soft was a flaw. But Jung knew that the most powerful transformation happens when we embrace, not erase, our vulnerabilities. That's where the alchemy lives. In the place where you hold your fear with compassion, your shame with curiosity, your pain with presence. If you want to feel whole, don't run from the younger you. Invite her. Let her show you what joy once looked like. Let her remind you of the freedom that lived before the world taught you to shrink. That smile you once had as a child. It wasn't careless, it was trust. Trust in yourself, in your belonging, in your place in this world, and that trust can be rebuilt. It begins when you stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to be perfect. Stop waiting to earn love. You are already worthy, already enough, already everything your younger self hoped you would become. Look at her, now, inside you, still glowing, still waiting, not for the world to change, but for you to notice, to choose her, to choose you. When she smiles again, it won't be a return to the past. It will be a rebirth, a rising, a soft revolution that begins not in force, but in feeling. And that's the kind of power that can't be faked. Let her smile. Let her be heard. Let her lead the way. You are ready now. And remember this, every moment you choose tenderness instead of judgment, you are healing. Every time you breathe deeply and remind yourself that softness is strength, you are returning. Every step you take toward yourself is a powerful act of defiance against everything that once made you feel small. You are not broken. You were silenced, and silence can be undone. So speak gently to yourself, to your inner girl, to the woman you are becoming. You are both the whisper and the roar, the root and the bloom, the question and the answer. Let that truth settle into your bones. Let it carry you forward. Let it anchor you in who you've always been. You are already her. And when the world feels cold and distant, return to the warmth of that younger you. Picture her running barefoot through the summer grass, chasing butterflies without a care. Picture the laughter that once echoed so effortlessly from her chest. That essence is still yours. It's still available. It still lives inside your breath, your heartbeat, your tears. Let that be your medicine. Let that be your reminder. Because when your inner girl smiles, the world shifts with her. The clouds part, the ground steadies, the noise quiets. You remember who you are. That memory is not just a comfort. It is your power, your compass, your return home. And when you walk from that place, the world responds. Because the most magnetic thing a woman can be is herself, fully, no longer edited, no longer hidden, no longer apologizing. This is the moment your confidence stops being a mask and becomes your truth.